Sheriff Greg Ahern is a lifelong resident of Alameda County. He served the Alameda County Sheriff's Department since 1980, when he was hired as a deputy. He has had a steady rise through the ranks as a sergeant, lieutenant, captain, commander, and assistant sheriff before his election as the 22nd Sheriff of Alameda County in 2006 and taking office in 2007. As sheriff, he has developed and supported the Youth and Family Services Bureau, Drug Education and Enforcement, cold case DNA investigations, and a DUI enforcement unit. He initiated the Urban Shield tactical training exercise for several thousand first responders. And of course, I knew his dad, a successful, well-liked, and well-respected Southern Alameda County attorney who was long in practice when I was a young prosecutor. Greg Ahern, welcome to Love Thy Lawyer.
Well, thank you very much, and thanks for bringing up my dad, who loved being a lawyer, and it's nice to know that he's not forgotten. Thank you.
What is your current position?
I am the Sheriff of Alameda County and Coroner and Region 2 Director, Office of Emergency Service Director, and sit on the Lottery Commission as well, and also sit as Chair of the East Bay Regional Commission Communication Systems Authority.
I would encourage anybody listening to this to go to your campaign website just to see the incredible list of awards and citations that you have received over the years. It is truly an amazing list of accomplishments.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Where are you from?
Born and raised in the city of Oakland. My father, as you know, is an Oakland resident as well. All of our family grew up in Oakland. Then we moved to San Leandro as a family, went to Assumption Grammar School, then Hayward High School. When I got enough money, I was able to buy a house right at the border of Oakland and San Leandro. Then able to move, after I got a job with the sheriff's office, up to the city of Hayward, above Hayward Hills by the East Hills Market, above Hayward High School. Then my wife and I got married, and we moved to Castro Valley. Then after our daughter was born, we moved out to Livermore.
So you went to high school in Hayward, is that correct?
That's correct. Moreau Catholic.
And what did you study at Moreau Catholic, and what did you do at Moreau Catholic besides just the regular schoolwork?
Well, my dad was a very good athlete. He was a Hall of Fame athlete at both St. Joe's High School in Alameda and a Hall of Fame athlete at Santa Clara University when the Santa Clara Broncos were rated number 2 in the nation, I believe. So he stressed the importance of fitness and athletics. So we went to Moreau High School, where I played 4 years of varsity soccer, and we won 3 championships. There I was a fairly good student. Without question, my parents told me I was going to college.
Where'd you go?
Went to St. Mary's College at Moraga and studied business administration and economics. One of my dad's best friends, a guy named John Arca, was a captain with the Oakland Police Department. I wear his medal today. He told me spoke to him, told him I wanted to go to law enforcement. And he said, don't take criminal justice classes. You need to expand your avenues so you can be successful in law enforcement. So he's the one that recommended I take business administration and economics.
Well, what was it about law enforcement that attracted you?
Well, my dad was also a member of the Navy. He was a Navy pilot. Then he became a member of the Naval Reserves and spent a lot of time at the Alameda Naval Air Station. And I liked the uniform. I liked the presence. I liked being around the guys that were in the military. Then I met his friends, a guy by the name of Joe Rodriguez, known as Lefty Joe, who's a sergeant at San Leandro Police Department, and John Arca. I loved how they carried themselves. I liked how they talked about their work. I'm kind of an active person, so I couldn't see myself sitting behind a desk every day. I just needed to serve the community. And I decided that the best thing for me to do was to get into law enforcement. I actually wrote a paper on it being a freshman in high school. Well, my dad found out that I was serious about joining law enforcement.
Was your dad happy about that?
Absolutely not. He wasn't in favor of me going into law enforcement. He did not want to assist me in law enforcement. He was frightened that, in the late 70s, it was very dangerous work at that time, very contentious times in law enforcement. And he was worried that I might be hurt. And he didn't want to help me, so I did it on my own.
And what was your first police job?
I actually worked in a maximum security jail at San Rita Jail called Greystone. And it was a real hard place, only maximum security inmates. The challenge. I loved it every day.
And that was as a deputy sheriff in the Alameda County Sheriff's Office?
That's correct, yeah. So any old-timers know the word terminology Greystone and the type of inmates they were there. And it was a wonderful job.
You've had a very storied career in the Alameda County Sheriff's Department, and I briefly outlined it, but I'm wondering if you could just kind of go through that progression through the office.
Yeah, I was a deputy sheriff for 6 years. I worked in the jail, then was able to get transferred to the courts, where I worked at Superior Court. And then in 1982 with the City of Dublin Incorporated, and I was allowed to join them. I was the first deputy sheriff, a part of that team, to be on patrol when the city first was a deputy for 14 years. Most of my time was in narcotics and doing street patrol. I got promoted in 1986, went back to San Rita Jail for a very brief time. I was asked to go back to the City of Dublin as a watch sergeant. And they didn't have very many lieutenants, so the sergeant was actually like the watch commander of the shift. And Deaths was a sergeant for about 14 years. And one of the cases I had was the John Monago killing at the Outback Steakhouse on December 11th, 1998. And I was the lead investigator in that case, where we were able to apprehend the 3 suspects responsible for that murder and send them to prison. And that's where I met Sheriff Plummer, saw my work. He was very interested in that case. We gave him frequent updates. He took a liking to me. I then became a lieutenant. Worked at the Eden Township substation, where I worked my way up to being the lieutenant of investigations. Because of the work I did as a lieutenant, Sheriff Plummer allowed me to stay at Eden Township as a captain. Promoted to commander. Sheriff Plummer asked me if I'd run for sheriff as a commander. When I worked with Sheriff Plummer, he was like my training officer. Every day of work, we would sometimes for a few minutes, sometimes for several hours, where he showed me and recommended how I should go about being sheriff. I valued that 1 year time. Very important that I was able to learn from his experience. He had 54 years in law enforcement, so it was nice to learn from one of the best, one of the most highly respected officers in all of California. And I got to see how we dealt with major problems. And 2007 elected. Since that time, I've worked again to expand the programs at the jail. We doubled the size of the programming there. I started the Urban Shield training, which became one of the region's best training venue for police, fire, and emergency medical teams. That Urban Shield training expanded to other states. People from around the world came to see how we did our programming. We have probably half dozen life-saving stories behind the training of Urban Shield. We continue to address those 5 drivers of crime: unemployment, lack of education, poverty, health, and environment. We make sure we address those each and every day through what I've been preaching to our teams, which was prevention, enforcement, programs, and services. So stop the crimes from ever occurring. And want to provide services to the people in the community and make sure we remember that we have to serve the victims of crime and give them the service that they deserve, and try to prevent others from being victims of crime and provide them with the best services that we can provide them.
What do you really like about being involved in law enforcement?
I work with some of the best people in the world. They're brave, they're courageous, they help the community, they have nothing but respect for each other, And I teach and lecture to a lot of classes. I tell them, you don't get respect in aisle 5 of Safeway. You can't go buy it at Costco. It doesn't show up at your front door. The only way you get respect is earn it. And our people earn that respect, my admiration for the challenges that they face and the manner in which they do their job. I'm very proud of them. It's great, rewarding work and great people, and we're doing great things to help our community.
If a young person were just coming out of college and thinking about law enforcement as a career choice, is that something that you would recommend?
I certainly would. We need a great number of people. A lot of the law enforcement agencies in this region, throughout the state, and even our nation, are down in law enforcement recruiting. We are down about 230 positions right now. We continue to advertise and attempt to hire qualified people. We won't lower our standards. We maintain high standards because we want the people we serve to have the finest law enforcement agency responding to their needs. So it won't lower the standards for our testing, but we're struggling to find those people to willingly come in and work with us. We hope that these college graduates are bold, brave, and brilliant. We want to preach to them that they can be a part of the solution, and we can help each community build and get better and improve the quality of life.
How is actually being a peace officer met or differed from your expectations?
The community involvement was a lot more than what I had anticipated. And our people today, I tell them you have to go out and be professional at all times. I just gave a short speech to our graduating class. The 173rd Basic Academy just graduated this morning.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's nice to have them. We need them. I thank them for joining our troops. I thank their families for being supportive of them. And I told them that when they go to work, they have to be professional at all times. It's a very demanding job. But I said, do something nice every day. Every day, do at least one thing nice for members of our community so that we can build the trust and the confidence in the community that we serve.
You're currently running for re-election as Sheriff of Alameda County. When did you start thinking about being the sheriff as a career move? And have you always wanted to be the elected sheriff? Have you thought of yourself as an elected official as opposed to someone just working in the department?
I'm always pretty aggressive in my approach to how I go about things. And I knew I wanted to be sheriff when I got into law enforcement. That's why I took the college classes that I did. That's why I went to the FBI National Academy. When I first got hired, one of my friend's mother gave me $1. She saw potential in me. She goes, "Here, I'm going to be the first one to contribute to your campaign when you run for sheriff." And that was 42 years ago.
It strikes me that the Alameda County Sheriff's Department has very diverse and wide-ranging responsibilities. You run the jail at Santa Rita. You patrol unincorporated Alameda County. You have the Dublin Police Department. You have certain duties at the airport, certain duties at the harbors. You're the coroner of Alameda County. I think there's probably some other things that I haven't even touched on. I know that you're very involved in supporting out-of-county agencies when they need help for whatever reason. And I'm just wondering if you could comment about the breadth of that responsibility.
Yes, it's a great responsibility, and there's a number of aspects of my job that I really don't think the other candidates have any experience in whatsoever. So as you mentioned, some of the responsibilities, we're also responsible for the courts. We provide court security. We have contracts at Highland Hospital, and we have contracts at the Oakland International Airport as well. And so there's a lot to do every day. As Region 2 coordinator, it's also an elected office that I've obtained as regional coordinator, responsible for 16 counties for mutual aid from Monterey to the Oregon border, the 16 counties on the western part western part of the state. And so we provide services for them when they get overrun by fire, by the dams breaking in Butte County, by major events in other areas. So what occurs is those agencies that need assistance make one phone call and they tell us what they need, and then we fill the needs logistically and for personnel and create operational hours for that response, along with a tactical response and the sending the people that have the experience in these type of events.
Right now, someone from within the department is running against you. I'm wondering if you have any thought or comment about that.
Yeah, I worked really hard to speak in positive terms, so I'll just say that I am by far the most qualified and experienced candidate to be sheriff. I have the awards, the accolades, the training, the experience. I have a proven record, and I think it goes beyond comparison and I'm very proud of my record, and I'm proud of those accomplishments. I'm proud of the number of years, and I have the heart and the desire to be the best, and we're going to make this Alameda County Sheriff's Office the best sheriff's office in the nation.
How's the campaign going, and what do you think of campaigning?
I love being sheriff. I do not like campaigning. It is it's a rough road. There's the one thing I do like about campaigning is I get to tell people about the great work the sheriff's office is doing. Honestly, a lot of people in the community don't know about the sheriff's office. They don't know the extent of the responsibilities. A lot of the public aren't aware of the number of technologies that we brought on to this agency in recent times that apprehend criminals.
Let me stick with the campaign here for a minute. I ran for judge 10 years ago or so, and I found campaigning to be just really different and really difficult and expensive. And I'm wondering how raising money has gone for you, what you think about raising money, and what you think it's going to cost to run a campaign countywide for sheriff, both for the primary, which is coming up fairly soon, and going ahead if we have to have a runoff in November.
Yeah, well, I hope to be successful in June and not have a runoff. And so, like I said, I come from an athletic background. I've played a lot of sports myself. And so knowing the advantage of a team. So I built a team. I've been building this team for a number of years. In the event I were to get a campaign component. And so my team has been in place for a number of years. I've done fundraisers every year to gradually gain money for my campaign expenses. It's humbling to me that people do donate money to a campaign for me to retain my job. I appreciate that. It's really, really humbling when they do that.
Do you have a 30-second elevator speech?
I don't know if I got a 30-second elevator speech, but I can go off the cuff and talk about prevention enforcement programs of service to be the best agency in the United States so that we are successful in everything that we do by allowing my people to be successful, giving them the training, the equipment that they need to go out and do their job. And they go out and do great things because we give them the acknowledgement that they've earned. We don't give anybody anything unless you've earned it.
How have the issues facing law enforcement changed in the time that you've been working?
Well, most recently, we've seen a push for defunding the police, which has been unsuccessful in every arena, every big city that you've seen. So knowing that, I think law enforcement has to improvise, adapt, and overcome to those challenges. And so I want the Alameda County Sheriff's Office to be the example of reform and not a reduction in services. I believe that law enforcement has to work on building trust and confidence in the community.
I want to shift gears here for a moment, Sheriff, and ask what your family life has been like as a law enforcement person, and how law enforcement and how running for high law enforcement office has affected or fit in with your family life?
Yeah, it doesn't fit in at all. It's a very multiple hours a day. I put in about 10 hours a day of work. And then after work, then I have to do the campaign stuff where I'm on call with my campaign manager and dealing with all the issues that we've said. We have to work on, the photographs, the mailers, the terminology, the focus, fundraising, the event. My daughter is now 34 years old, and she just recently told me that she got nervous every time she heard my car start up and drive away from the driveway. Her bedroom was right above my car. As a family, I'm lucky to have them behind me, and I see my people do it 1,000 times a day. And that's why we love and respect each other.
What sort of recreational pursuits have you been involved with, maybe to get your mind off of law enforcement and unwind a little bit every once in a while?
Well, I used to do a lot of running. I still go to the gym on a regular basis. Recreationally, I water ski. My friend and I are braggadocious about our water skiing efforts, and we snow ski. I'm an avid golfer. I love to be outdoors. I've been on 4 cattle drives, so I love horses and ranches and things of that nature. And so there's enough time to recreate and take time off.
What keeps you up at night?
Worrying about my people when they respond to events like I used to.
Let's say you came into some real money, a few $1 billion. What, if anything, would you do differently in your life?
Well, that's a great question. I'd probably acquire a ranch, live in peace and quiet, have more dogs, and see if I had enough money to own a boat. I always liked the water. I've learned a little bit about sailing, and I would see to it that wherever I lived, that police agency had as much donation that I could possibly give them so they had the tools and equipment needed to do their job so that they could be safe.
Let's say you had a magic wand. There was one thing in the world, the police world, the legal world, or otherwise. What one thing would you want to change?
The abuse of illegal drugs. I started the DARE program in 1984, so this isn't a new thing for me. I saw the damage that drugs do to people's lives. We've had people close to myself and my family that had issues with drugs, and it caused them death. And if we could address the amount of illegal drugs and do away with them, it'd be a great thing for millions of individuals throughout this world.
If someone wants to look up some more information about you, donate to your campaign, find out a little bit more about the Alameda County Sheriff's Department, what's the best way that they can get in touch with you and your staff?
So I have a personal email, Greg Ahern, GREGMIC, at AOL.com, because I'm an old school guy, AOL still. So we have MIC means make it count. So every day I work, every day I live, I work to make it count. Every day I go to work, I try to make a difference. So that's how come that email started. And remember, this isn't because I was elected. I started that when it was AOL. So Greg Ahern, MIC, was in the 80s when AOL first came out. And ahernforsheriff.com has a lot of information about our campaign. And once again, I'm not asking anybody to donate money. That's not what if you learned about me, you would vote for me. And you'd have confidence that I'd be your best sheriff.
Sheriff Ahern, is there anything you want to talk about that we haven't discussed?
We have a center in jail, and we've really improved the conditions there. We've improved the number of hours for out of cell time. We've improved the vocational programs. So again, my preach has been enforcement along with prevention programs and services. And so with programs, we've created a vocational programming out of the jail. We have a carpentry program. So there's a community-based organization that goes out and recovers furniture that wouldn't be added toward landfill. That furniture that then goes to low-income housing, long-term care facilities, places that can't afford to get refurbished furniture. So it saves the landfill, it helps the inmates, it gives them a skill, and it's less expensive for the places where we are delivering it. With that, they went out and created a commercial painting instruction where the inmates learn how to be commercial painters. We also have a farming program where they learn about farming and grow products at the jail. So then when they leave, they can then join our Dig Deep Farms program. We're starting a Paws for Life program, and that's where we go and recover animals, dogs that are going to be in an animal control center and scheduled to be put down. We then are going to recover the dog, bring the dog to the jail. The dog will then be assigned to 3 inmates under the supervision of a deputy. They'll then train the dog, get it to be a service dog so they can have the dog go to the community and help somebody in need. Again, restorative justice. The people say, look, I'm giving something back and paying back for some of the crimes that I committed, and they feel good about themselves. Hopefully they don't continue with that cycle of recidivism. And I'll tell you what, the deputies are happy because they're working with dogs. The inmates are happy because they have out-of-cell time and they're working with dogs and they're giving back to the community. The people that get the service dog are happy that they get a service dog to improve their life.
Sheriff Greg Ahern, thank you so much for joining me today on the Love Thy Lawyer podcast. It's been a pleasure to talk to you.
It's been a pleasure to talk to you once again. Thank you for remembering my dad.
That's it for today's episode of Love Thy Lawyer. If you enjoyed listening, please share it with a friend and follow the podcast. If you have comments or suggestions, send me an email. Take a look at our website at lovethlawyer.com, where you can find all of our episodes, transcripts, photographs, and information. Thanks to my guests, and to Joel Katz for music, Bryan Matheson for technical support, Paul Roberts for social media, and Tracy Harvey. I'm Louis Goodman.
We had the 1991 firestorms in Oakland and Berkeley. We wanted to make sure that since we had to respond to major events on a regular basis, that we work together and train together, specifically to deal with terrorism, things like 9/11 attacks.